Rick Harrison, whose name millions of people know from the TV show Pawn Stars, never stops to amaze. This time, though, it wasn't a strange old thing that shocked everyone. It was his shop's old wooden floor. No one knew what was under the old floorboards at Rick's shop when the FBI showed up out of the blue and started tearing them up. What started as an interest quickly turned into a chilling quiet. Even the most experienced detectives couldn't say what they saw down there. What was under those worn-out planks was a surprise that wasn't in any of the previous probe files. The strange find could be the key to a story that has been hidden for a long time. The gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas was once the center of an amazing success story that was vividly shown on the show. From a small store opened in 1989 by Richard Oldman Harrison and his son Rick, it became a must-see for millions of tourists who were enchanted by the rare artifacts and the Harrison family's funny banter on screen. But by the spring of 2025, things looked worse. Banks stopped extending loans to the shop because of rumors that it was having money problems. Former suppliers sued the Harrison family, saying they hid profits from big deals. This hurt their image, which they had worked hard to build over many years. It was very quiet in the shop, which used to be full of stories about 18th century gold watches and war souvenirs. There was a thin layer of dust on the display shelves, which was a quiet sign that fewer people were walking by. A surprise check by the city's finance department found transactions that didn't make sense. A lot of sales invoices that weren't signed, and big amounts of money sent overseas for unknown reasons. Investigators swooped in quickly and searched the huge warehouse, which held tens of thousands of things, ranging from old oil paintings to royal jewelry. Rick Harrison was shocked when he learned that some valuable things may have come from sketchy places, possibly connected to the black market on a global scale. Rick had always demanded that everything had a clear, documented story behind it. He was known for knowing a lot about history and artifacts. Now, though, those stories seemed to hide something worse. He was under pressure from both his son Corey, who wanted to show he could run the store, and his close friend Austin Chumley Russell, who was fighting rumors that he was involved. He wanted to protect the family name. During the chaos, an old secret from the old man's time started to come to light, which could destroy everything. The audit at the gold and silver pawn shop was supposed to clear up some strange numbers, but it quickly turned into a nightmare for the Harrison family. With sharp eyes and a lot of questions, the inspectors found that many of the things being shown did not have the right paperwork. Rick used to happily show off a Civil War medal on Pawn Stars as a priceless relic, but now it was thought to be stolen from a private museum that closed down decades ago. Under cultural heritage rules, a set of Native American jewelry that sparkled in the studio lights did not have legal proof of ownership. It got even worse. A group of old European watches that were stored showed signs of having been stolen in France 15 years ago. Rick stood in the middle of the warehouse's chaos, with wooden boxes ripped open all around him. He felt like the ground had given way under him. He was proud of how carefully he checked out every artifact that came through his hands, because he spent his whole life doing it. But when FBI agents with search warrants and sharp questions showed up, he had to face the truth, which hurt. His store may have become an unintended link in a global web of illegally trading ancient artifacts. Now thousands of things that had been gathered over 30 years since the time of the old man were being looked at. Some, like a small bronze figure from Southeast Asia, were thought to have been brought through the port of Los Angeles illegally, which is against international agreements that protect cultural property. Some of them, like a group of old maps, could be linked to thefts from London libraries. The study didn't end when they found out where the artifacts came from. FBI agents who work with money found strange moves of millions of dollars from the shop's accounts to fake companies in the Caribbean. Some of these deals happened before Pawn Stars even started airing. They seemed to be connected to a big web that Rick had no idea existed. Corey, who wanted to show his father how good he was, got more and more tense as he was questioned about his role in a number of deals. He said he was just doing what his longtime sources told him to do, but the investigator's doubtful look scared him. Chumley, who was known for always having a smile on his face, had stopped talking. He was now involved in the investigation because he was in charge of big deals during the show's best years. Even though he was sure he wasn't guilty, he couldn't deny that some of the things he bought had been moved without being checked out properly. Rick started going through his dad's old notes, which were locked away in a dusty safe in the office, because he had to. The old man's handwritten notes showed that he did business with a mysterious group of traders in the 1990s, when the shop was still fighting to stay open. Rick got chills when he saw the name broker over and over in the pages. He knew that this secret could either help him clean up the mess, or put his family in even more danger. Rick started his own search for the truth in the background, while the FBI continued to search the warehouse for links between the shop and foreign crime rings. He knew that his father's heritage could be lost if the past wasn't brought to light. Even though the investigation was stressful for Corey, he did his best to keep the shop open. He smiled at the few customers who were still there. He thought it was another agent with questions he couldn't answer every time the bell above the door rang. In a rare moment of honesty, Chumley told Rick that he had thought some deals weren't going to go through, but didn't say anything, because they trusted the shop's image. As rumors of the collapse spread, an unexpected new clue was found in old papers. It pointed to an even bigger secret that was hidden deep in the things the Harrison family used to be proud to show off. The Harrisons were dealt a blow even worse than legal charges. When the FBI kept going through the gold and silver pawn shop stock, Adam Harrison, Rick's youngest son, died suddenly in early 2025. Adam had always chosen to live a quiet life away from the attention of Pawn Stars. He died of a stroke caused by abusing painkillers, which was a secret that his family had long tried to keep from everyone. When Rick's family got together, his house used to be full of laughter. Now it was filled with sadness. The man who had been proud of keeping his family together through every storm now felt useless as he saw the cracks in the relationships he loved grow. Adam's death was more than just a sad event for him. This was a sign that the old man's legacy was falling apart because of his history. Corey, the older brother, felt torn between missing Adam and the stress of running the shop. He and Rick often disagreed about how to handle the probe. He was angry that his father insisted on going after the broker himself instead of working with the FBI. Corey was eager to show that he was more than just Rick's son. He was torn between loving his family and being afraid that his stubborn dad would bring them all down. Their fights, which used to be funny banter for TV viewers, had turned nasty. The rest of the staff was too scared to speak up. Chumley was stuck in the middle of the emotions, even though he wasn't related to anyone. He tried to make things better, but he felt bad about the careless deals he had made in the past. When he was feeling weak, Chumley told Corey that he had once heard the old man talking about a deal with an unknown source. At the time, though, he thought of it as nothing more than a business deal. When Adam died, long-buried family truths came to light. While going through Adam's things, Rick came across a letter that his son had written by hand not long before he died. In it, Adam said he felt terrible that he had left the shop years before and put all the responsibility on Corey. The letter talked about a time when Adam caught Rick and his father talking about a risky loan from the shop's early days. This shocked Rick, who didn't think Adam knew about the family's darkest moments. Rick was deeply hurt by the letter, which made him wonder if Adam had killed himself because of the stress of fame and the shop's hidden secrets. Also, Pawn Stars, the show with over 600 episodes that made Harrison famous around the world, was officially canceled by the History Channel in the middle of 2025. Because of how popular the show became so quickly, the shop grew from a small shopfront to a worldwide tourist draw with merchandise lines and franchises. But their management system couldn't keep up, like an engine that's too hot. Loose evaluation processes, signing contracts quickly to meet the needs of TV production, and relying on providers that might not be reliable all set the stage for disaster. An unnamed former director from the show said that they had warned Rick about outsourcing too many deals, but the allure of fame had made everyone miss the warning signs. Rick found a spark of hope in the old man's other notebook, which was hidden behind the wooden walls of his office during the storm. The notebook had information about a unique item, an old ring from the 1600s that was bought from a dealer with the promise that it would never be sold again. Rick remembered that the ring was still in the safe behind the shop and had never been shown off. The ring was in the safe, along with a note written in a rough handwriting that had an address in New Orleans and the message, "The truth lies here." It broke Rick's heart to know that his quest to protect his family and legacy would now take him beyond Las Vegas, to a place where the past and the present might meet. Rick Harrison stood still in the small office of the gold and silver pawn shop. The dim light from the ring he was holding from the 1600s caught his eye. The gem sparkled, but Rick's eyes were heavy as he thought about the note that was next to it. An address in New Orleans and the strange words of the old man, "This is where the truth is." Rick felt like he had to make a choice because the FBI was looking into him, and he was sad about Adam's death. He knew that the shop's claimed wrongdoings, like illegally bringing in artifacts and doing shady business with money, were not his fault. But he couldn't deny that choices made in the past, especially those made by his father, had put the family in danger. Rick quietly got ready for a trip to New Orleans, hoping to find answers before the FBI looked into the shop's secrets further. He was determined to honor the old man's memory and find the truth. Even though Corey and his father had ongoing disagreements about how to handle the case, Corey couldn't stay out of it. He offered to go with Rick to New Orleans to show his support for his father and to show that he was a good son to take over. Even though Corey had grown up in the past few months, Adam's death still bothered him. He kept thinking about his brother's letter, which was full of sorrow, and talked about a risky loan. Corey thought that this trip might help him get Adam, his father, and himself to forgive him. At the same time, Austin Chumley Russell, who was once criticized for careless business dealings, turned out to be a surprising ally. Even though Chumley had been in trouble with the law in the past for things that had nothing to do with the shop, he still worked with the FBI and told them everything he knew about former sources. He said he was just doing what he was told, and Rick believed him, so he let him watch over the shop while they were gone. The gold and silver exchange shop was still open, but it wasn't what it used to be. Tourists kept coming, taking pictures by the Pawn Stars sign and buying gifts, but not many of them knew what was going on behind the scenes. The FBI took most of the inventory to look at, so display cases that used to be full of expensive artifacts now only had everyday things in them. There were rumors that the shop might have to return a lot of items to foreign museums, or face big fines, which would put the Harrison family in financial trouble. Before leaving, Corey tried to boost mood by planning a special sale, but the employees' worried faces showed that they were very worried about the future. Rick and Corey went to the address on the note, which was an old shop in the French Quarter, with a worn-out sign that said Antiquité du Passé. The old woman who owned the shop, Madame Elise, seemed to be ready for them. In the 1990s, when he needed money to keep the Las Vegas shop open, she told him that the old man had been a regular customer. Madame Elise said that the broker wasn't just one person, but a group of wealthy collectors who sold artifacts to people who were willing to pay a lot of money for them without asking where they came from. The old man bought the ring from the 1600s but they made him promise to keep another thing, a rare book, as security to keep quiet. Rick was shocked by the news. He remembered seeing his dad put a strange leather-bound book in the safe, but he had never asked why. Madame Elise took them to a hidden room below her store where she kept a copy of that book. Rick and Corey turned the book's yellowed pages and saw that it wasn't just any book. It was a full list of stolen artifacts from around the world, complete with notes on who bought them and how much they were worth. The gold and silver pawn shop was on the list, along with some other things that the FBI is currently looking into. Rick told Madame Elise that he didn't know about these deals, and she believed him. But he warned her that the broker group was still active and wouldn't let anyone look into the past. Even though Corey was shocked by what he found, he knew that the book could help clear their family's name. He told Rick to bring the copy back to Las Vegas and give it to the FBI, but Rick didn't want to because he was afraid that telling the truth would ruin his father's image. During their argument, Madame Elise told them one more thing. Before he died, the old man tried to cut links with the broker group. That could be why he hid the note and the ring. She gave Rick a small key and said it would open a different safe in Las Vegas where the old man had left his last word. Rick and Corey had to face a hard truth back in Las Vegas. More proof of the shop's foreign business had been found by the FBI, which made it more important for them to cooperate. While they were away, Chumley found an old mailbox in the office that was full of letters from to an unknown lawyer, in which he talked about his wish to cut ties with shady suppliers. Even though these letters didn't prove that they did help Chumley believe that the old man hadn't meant to keep the family in the dark. He gave them to Rick with the hope that they would help. Rick chose to open the secret safe in the shop's storage room with the key that He found a long letter from the inside. In it he admitted that working with the broker to save the shop was a mistake, and that he had tried to make things right by hiding important proof. At the end of the letter, there was an apology to Rick and his boys and one last line that said, "Find the person who has the second book." Rick knew that they still had a long way to go, and there was still a bigger secret to be found, maybe in a place they didn't think of. There are dangerous cracks in fame and success, no matter how bright they seem. The story of the Harrison family and the gold and silver pawn shop is a strong warning of this. The Pawn Stars empire, which was once a symbol of the American dream, started to fall apart, not only because of mistakes with money and the law, but also because of lies from the past that had been kept hidden for a long time. The first lesson is how important it is to own up to your mistakes. Even though it broke Rick Harrison's heart to learn about shady business his father was involved, he chose to seek the truth instead of running away from it. His dangerous trip to New Orleans shows that we can only protect the future by facing the past straight on. Second, the story shows how important family is when things go wrong.
The fights between Rick and Corey, the sadness over Adam's death, and Chumley's sudden help show that family isn't always as happy as it seems on TV. It's about sticking together through hard times. Even though he didn't agree with his dad, Corey decided to stand by him, and Chumley's actions when he was suspected showed how loyal he was. Forgiving each other and trusting each other are the most important things you can do to get through a problem. Finally, the story tells about what happens when growth is not slowed down. Because Pawn Stars were so popular, the shop grew too quickly, without going through the right checks and making terrible. Without taking responsibility, success won't last. The Old Man's Letter and the old book in the New Orleans basement are reminders of lessons we have forgotten. They show us that the choices we make today affect the outcomes of our actions tomorrow. We don't know how the Harrison family's story ends, but their journey shows us that telling the truth, no matter how painful, is always the way to make things right. Don't let the spotlight make you lose sight of what really counts. Be honest and love your family.